Coming up on Carolina Week, the ACC tournament is underway and the Heels are gearing up for their first game in D.C. Can they keep up the momentum from Saturday's big win against Duke?
Every time we go out.
We all love the convenience of Uber, but just how safe are we during those rides home?
And do you remember all those rules you had growing up? Well, then you're going to be really jealous of these kids. All that and more, Carolina Week starts
right now.
From the UNC School of Journalism and Mass Communication, covering Carolina in HD, this is Carolina Week.
This week, it's going down in D.C. The Heels and the presidential hopefuls are both battling to win it all in our nation's capital. Good evening, I'm Avery Hall.
And I'm Luis Fernandez. Pitt defeated Syracuse by 1 point earlier today, which means UNC will play the Panthers tomorrow at noon. The ACC tournament isn't in Greensboro, which is kind of a second home for the Heels, but it's still the start of the most wonderful time of the year. The Heels are looking to repeat this chaos that ensued after beating Duke on Saturday. And the way to do that is by winning the national championship. But you know what? We can't get too far ahead of ourselves quite yet. Before Selection Sunday, it's a mad dash in D.C. So if you want to rush Franklin Street again, Bryce Johnson and Marcus Page have to play big in the ACC tournament and beyond. Last year, Justin Jackson had a great March. Look for him and Joel Berry to step up.
In other news, the trial date for former UNC student Chandler Kania is now set for October 3rd. Judge Alan Bador continued the case as attorneys continue to gather information from the investigation. Kania is accused of driving drunk the wrong way on I-85 and killing 3 people this past July.
This week marks a tragic anniversary. 6 years ago, on March 5th, 2 men robbed and murdered UNC student body president Eve Carson. Carson was also a Morehead Cain Scholar. A yearly scholarship in Carson's honor goes to junior year students who demonstrate excellence and leadership. Eve Carson would have been 31 this year.
Well, you pull up the app, you request a ride, and Uber is at your service. But the person behind the wheel of that car could be a total surprise. Our Laura Fellwalk investigates the fears and concerns that many now have about the world of Uber.
It's a Saturday night in Kalamazoo, Michigan. And on the street, Jason Dalton starts a shooting rampage that kills 6 and injures 2, all while driving his Uber. So you might wonder, how well can you really know your Uber driver? UNC senior Morgan Zaccardo told me her process in becoming an Uber driver wasn't very intense.
Their training, which is, it's actually kind of funny, is like, make sure your car smells nice. Like sometimes you might want to put on a lot of cologne, and sometimes that's not, people don't like to smell strong cologne. Like that was the training.
But if the process takes only 2 days to complete, and the most they're worried about is how a driver smells, then how does safety really factor in?
One senator wanted to do his part to answer that question.
There was a need for immediate regulation.
Senator Floyd McKissick sponsored Senate Bill 541, which requires insurance and background checks for Uber drivers in North Carolina. I sat down with McKissick to discuss the bill.
Do we need to protect the public from drivers that may have poor driving histories? Absolutely.
McKissick says this bill might not remove all concern, but it's a step in the right direction.
North Carolina is better off today than we were before because we have Uber legislation.
The senator says it is about creating a safer system for would-be passengers. In Chapel Hill, I'm Laura Fellwalk.
Now, Uber didn't respond to requests for a comment, but Chief Security Officer Joe Sullivan released a statement saying the thoughts and prayers of Uber are with the families of victims in Michigan and that the company is working with police.
If you haven't voted, you have only 6 days to do so. Sharon Nunn is live at the polling place that's closest to campus. Sharon?
How long do you have?
That's right. I'm here at Chapel of the Cross on Franklin Street, where early voting line's not too bad, but if you're looking to early vote today, I would say get out and do it now. Now, the North Carolina primary is less than a week away, and early voting is already going strong in Orange County. Since last Thursday, almost 9,000 voters have cast ballots at 5 local early voting sites. This week's same-day voter registration is also available at these locations. In 2016, the number of registered voters in Orange County has increased by almost 2,000. So students, if you want to vote for a presidential candidate before you leave for spring break, make sure you do so before Saturday, March 12th. Back to you guys.
That was Sharon Nunn live from Chapel of the Cross. Thanks, Sharon.
And voters in North Carolina will also have the opportunity to vote for or against a $2 billion bond package called the Connect NC Bond. If passed, the bond would provide nearly $1 billion for the state's university system. A portion of that money will go towards UNC Medical School renovations. Berry Hill Hall, the current medical education building, was designed in the early 1960s, and many of the classrooms haven't been renovated since that time. A new building would replace outdated technology and allot space for an extra 50 students if the Connect NC Bond passes.
Breakthrough research on UNC's campus might lead to less dependence on drugs for cancer patients. Haley Ray has the story.
For the past 3 years, researchers at UNC's Eshelman School of Pharmacy have been searching for a better way to give cancer patients the medication they need. And they discovered that the answer might be inside the patients themselves. The researchers repackaged the drug paclitaxel in what's called exosomes, containers taken from patients' own immune systems. When the drug is packaged this way, researchers found it more effectively kills drug-resistant lung cancer cells. Graduate student and lead author of the study, Sue Kim, says there were some twists and turns.
We had some drug-resistant cancer cells in the lab, and we wanted to see how it would compare to non-drug-resistant cancer cells. And we didn't expect any kind of result. We just kind of went ahead and did it. And when we saw this 50 times less cancer drug needed result, we were very surprised and very happy.
Elena Batrakova, senior author of the study, says the medical community has been very supportive.
I'm receiving maybe about 10 emails every day from patients, and they are very, on one side, they are very encouraging emails because we see how much people need this treatment from all over the world.
Despite the promising results, Batrakova says more drug trials are still needed. In Chapel Hill, I'm Haley Ray reporting.
The next steps for the researchers include getting funding for future trials. Your lab partner, that student sitting next to you, how well do you know your classmates?
We'll show you a day in the life of 2 UNC students who face a bit of a challenge on campus.
It's uncontrollable, distracting, sometimes loud, and it affects about 1% of the population. Reporter Madison Cavalcari spoke to one student who has been dealing with the disorder for 15 years.
Sitting still. It's the hardest thing senior Sage Stamer has ever had to do. For Stamer, life's all about the small victories.
It's not easy, like inherently. I've spent a lot of time devoted to just trying to sit still.
Doctors diagnosed Stamer with OCD at age 6, but it was only a few years ago when doctors told him he had another disorder, one called Tourette syndrome, a neurological disorder with symptoms that include involuntary movements called tics.
At their worst, I would repeat words and sentences. I would stand up and spin in circles.
When Stamer sees that a tic is becoming worse, he has learned to substitute it for a new tic. One that's less distracting and looks more like this.
Filling my nostrils, cracking my neck sometimes, cracking my toes.
Dr. Jarrett Barnhill calls this method habit reversal technique and says it's usually more effective than any medication.
Instead of doing a tic that you feel an urge for, you do something else that's more noticeable, more acceptable, and that takes that urge away. That can be incredibly effective.
Everyday activities like class, group projects, and even dating are a bit more challenging for Stamer. But not a day goes by when he doesn't get to celebrate at least one small victory. Whether that's cooking a new dish, playing a song on his guitar, or simply sitting still for just 10 seconds more.
Do you want to live with Tourette's, or do you want Tourette's to live with you?
He's determined to come out the winner. In Chapel Hill, I'm Madison Cavalcari reporting.
Dr. Barnhill says evidence suggests someone can pass Tourette's on to the next generation. Stamer also says his dad also shows symptoms of Tourette's. In other news, after reviewing more than 200 centers and institutes across the UNC system, the Board of Governors is giving additional funding to just one, the Carolina Women's Center. The Women's Center will spend the money on a second gender violence service coordinator who will work to provide a safe space for victims of sexual assault.
Starting this semester, one of UNC's graduate schools is offering a new course aimed at attracting former members of our military. The Physician Assistant Studies class is a first for the School of Medicine. It's also one of the first programs to actively encourage enrollment by military veterans. Roughly 45% of the class members used to be on active military duty. The main goal is to provide care for rural communities across the state that lack medical professionals.
Every college student faces challenges at school, but for some, even getting to the classroom is a daily struggle. Health reporter E. Yang tells us more.
Kevin Yu hits the gym 5 times a week, but getting there isn't easy.
I have to plan it out, try to get there early, think of where to go, ask for directions.
Since age 5, Yu has been losing his vision. The cells in the back of his eyes can't distinguish light from dark. That leads to tunnel vision.
So I always tell people, if you want to see like I see, look at the sun and then look at a peephole.
Ophthalmologist Seema Garg says this limits what people can do.
And at this point, your visual field is so constricted that you would not be legal to drive. And as you know, in this country, that's a great loss of independence to not being able to drive.
This chirp tells people it's safe to cross. But here at a busy intersection in front of the Carolina Inn, there's no chirp telling me it's safe to walk. To ensure his safety, Yu taps a cane to sound out obstacles.
I do use a folding cane, or if it's going to be a large echo, I can judge that it's going to be a big room with maybe tile flooring.
But sometimes he can't navigate on his own.
It's really just considerate when you ask people, can I help you? What can I do for you?
Despite the challenges, he's still very independent and plans to travel to Asia to help people improve their English. In Chapel Hill, I'm E. Yang reporting.
According to the National Federation of the Blind, nearly 7.5 million Americans have a visual disability.
Well, spring break is only 2 days away, and it already feels like summer in Chapel Hill.
Madison Cavalcari has your spring break forecast coming up.
Madison Cavalcari here with your weather forecast today. And I think here in Chapel Hill, we are still celebrating that Saturday Carolina victory with sunny blue skies, as you guys have probably seen all week. Now for your forecast just for tonight, 8 p.m. we have 66, 12 a.m. 61, and 8 a.m. tomorrow morning as you're getting up for class, still in the 60s. And now we're looking at our satellite, and as you can see, that system moving in, so we should have no scattered showers until Sunday and Monday of next week. Take a look at that. It's all the way on the other side, so we should be clear for a couple days still. And then now at our surface map, you can see that cool weather system staying away from the North Carolina region. That means if you're staying home for spring break, you're going to be fine just right here in North Carolina. Tomorrow, same thing. As you see, that cool system not moving into North Carolina, so we will still be good if you decide to stick in town. And tonight, mostly clear skies, 55 degrees. So if you decide to do anything pint nights tonight, you'll be okay. And then tomorrow, cloudy, spring temperatures continue to rise, 80 degrees tomorrow. So if you're planning on doing any outdoor activities, make sure you wear your t-shirt, shorts, no need. I've seen a lot of people on campus with the capris and the Bermudas. So you guys can cut those and head straight to shorts tomorrow. And then this is looking now at our 5-day forecast. We see that we are sticking mostly in the 70s and 80s. So if you do decide to stay here, you know, you can have your spring break right here. You don't even have to leave to go anywhere. So
that sounds pretty fantastic. I mean, I'm going to be in Florida personally, and last I checked, it's going to be in the 90s in March. So pretty excited for that. And where are you going to be, Madison?
I'm actually going to New Orleans, but we still have some warm weather there. So I should be okay. Not as nice as Florida, but still
looking
pretty
good
nice.
all around though.
Yeah,
And Lewis,
seriously.
where are you going to be?
I'm not doing anything nearly as fun, whether it's Disney World or New Orleans. I'm actually going to be here in the Raleigh area, so
All
that'll be
right.
lots of fun. It's mostly because I'm a loser. I don't have any friends, but I mean that's okay. That's okay.
Well, you have nice weather
you
here.
got nice
Lewis.
weather to keep you company.
It'll be totally fine. It'll be totally fine. So Madison Calvacari, thank you so much.
Thanks, Madison.
March means spring break, and it also means tournament time.
We have everything you need to know about the Tar Heels' chances in the ACC tournament. Sports is next. Stay with us.
Welcome back to Carolina Week. I'm Jordan Black with sports. Carolina will take on Pitt tomorrow at noon in the ACC tournament, and we have basketball analyst Brett Thompson live in the studio. Brett, tell us, can the Heels follow up the regular season with a championship and after the championship with a conference tournament title?
Thanks, Jordan. It'll be a tough road for the Heels to win the conference outright, but like you said, it starts tomorrow with Pitt. UNC only played the Panthers once this season, but they blew them out in the Dean Dome. But the Tar Heels do have to be careful about two players, Michael Young and Jamel Artis. Young and Artis are first and second on the team respectively in scoring and rebounding, and honestly, they played one of their worst games of the season against Carolina. You see there's a real struggle, but Young's going to pick that up and score. Young was benched at the start of that game. He still scored 15 points, and Artis only scored 5 points in 23 minutes. There's Young with a monster dunk, and here's Artis, like I just said, 5 points in 23 minutes, missing that bunny right there. But you have to think Lightning won't strike twice for Carolina against those two, especially with the Panthers playing for their NCAA tournament lives tomorrow. So let's take a look at the current ACC bracket and see what would be ahead for the Tar Heels if they advance tomorrow. A win would put the Heels against the winner of Duke and Notre Dame in the semifinals on Friday. That's actually a fun matchup because it pits Notre Dame football fans against their favorite basketball school. Now, for what would happen next, the Heels would play Saturday. I don't really know who they would play in the championship if they were to keep advancing. My guess is Virginia, but the bottom half of that bracket also has Miami. Anything can happen in the ACC tournament. But my advice to Carolina is simple. Avoid that final game like the plague. That sounds silly, but UNC's 2 national championships under Roy Williams came after short NCAA tournament runs. It might be the rest, it might be avoiding such a long winning streak. Either way, they have the hardware that comes later in March that's way more important than what's at stake this weekend. Jordan?
Brett, as always, thank you. Speaking of ACC excellence, former basketball star Ivory Latta was ACC Player of the Year in 2006, and a procedure called platelet-rich plasma is helping athletes like Latta overcome injuries. Danielle Wallace has more.
I mean, I wouldn't have came from Turkey all the way back to Chapel Hill to get treated by him if I didn't think he couldn't take care of me. So.
WNBA player and UNC alum Ivory Latta flew back to her alma mater after a knee injury. She says opting for the platelet-rich plasma procedure, or PRP, was the obvious choice to get herself back in action.
When I went up for the layup, I just felt my sharp pain in my right knee. So before I hit the ground, I just grabbed my knee, and right then and there, I knew something was wrong, and I texted Dr. Stafford, told him what happened.
Dr. Harry Stafford did take care of her.
We basically take some blood from the patient. We spin the blood down. It separates into 3 layers. The middle layer has all the healing factors that your body normally sends out. We then take that layer and inject it into the area of the injury under ultrasound guidance, and it accelerates the healing process.
Here at UNC Family Medicine, doctors use PRP to treat musculoskeletal injuries. That's anything from a sprained ankle or knee to tendon injuries and even hamstring tears.
For professional athletes, quick recovery from injury is vital to their careers.
It's very important for you to, stay fit, stay healthy, but also have a doctor like Dr. Stafford that if anything comes up, you can call, text him, and he responds right away, and he does a great job of trying to help you get back on the court.
Dr. Stafford also treats many NCAA student athletes and even regular folk like you and me, whose careers don't depend on his work, but whose lives can still benefit from it. In Chapel Hill, I'm Danielle Wallace, reporting.
Now, dentists have been using PRP since the 70s, but it wasn't until the 90s when doctors saw the value of this treatment in sports medicine. While basketball is looking for a conference title, some UNC Divers are focusing on winning a national championship. 4 UNC divers are in Atlanta for the NCAA zone diving preliminaries. Alyssa Dawson, Maria Lohman, Jack Nyquist, and Ozzie Moyer have already qualified for the championship meet later this month. Now, we hit on all the major sports. We didn't talk baseball yesterday, coming off an 11-5 win against Gardner-Webb. They've been killing it. They're 10-1, those Diamond Heels. Good to see that. Good baseball weather,
yeah,
right?
Seriously. I mean, it's great to see them come back from a down year last year. You know, now hey, maybe they're back in form. Those Colin Moran years a few years back. You know, they're looking good.
Yeah, and of course, opening ACC play this weekend against Pitt, so we're all pretty excited
Everyone's
about that.
looking for a win against Pitt, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. Sure thing. That's Jordan Black with sports. Thank you, Jordan. So don't jump on the bed, don't slam doors, keep your elbows off the table. We remember these rules, but some children are growing up without hearing them.
It's called free-range parenting. Next on Carolina Week. Parenting can be a full-time job, especially if your children think they're the boss.
The days of children being seen and not heard are long gone. I explored what's called child-centric parenting and how kids today communicate differently with their parents than in generations past.
Carter Durbin is 7 years old. His brother Tyler is 5. They're adorable and, like most little boys, can be a handful. But when disagreements and strong feelings surface, their mom Jennifer takes a different approach than her parents might have.
The boys kind of approach us in terms of a negotiation as opposed to a dictatorship.
In the Durbin household, they make most decisions together. Instead of saying, "because I said so," rules are up for discussion. Tyler even got to time my interview with Mom when he decided it was taking too long.
You tell us when the 2 minutes are up, okay?
It's a strategy that some refer to as child-centric or free-range parenting. It emphasizes cooperation rather than discipline. But critics call this style of parenting permissive parenting. And they say that parenting children without structure or boundaries leads to disrespectful children who are self-centered. Experts have seen an increase in this gentler parenting style for several decades. Carolina parent editor Beth Shug feels that when kids don't get hard and fast rules and real consequences, they aren't prepared for interacting in the adult world.
We try to offer advice that counters that because those children are going to grow up to be very selfish adults.
But Durbin says negotiating with her boys does them a service by teaching them how to negotiate with others in the future.
I feel like I'm giving them good skills for the rest of their lives, you know, because in business you can't succeed without those negotiation skills.
And while Tyler told me he doesn't always say please and thank you, he did say that he always tries to be kind.
Yes.
Kids these days, am I right?
You are right, Lewis. Well, that's all we've got for you this evening. We will see you after spring break.
Have a good night.